Good morning, everyone. Thanks for jumping on early today. We're going to get started probably about 3 minutes. So if you could just, get comfortable, grab a cup of coffee. We'll be starting right at the top of the hour. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the functional overview on role-based security and Workday. We're glad you were able to join us this morning. We'll get started right at the top of the hour, and we should be wrapping up about 45 minutes past the hour. So thank you for joining us. All right. Good morning, everybody. By my clock, I've got 11 o'clock on my nice little computer here. I'm joining you guys live from the Mannequin Building in College Park. So welcome to the Your Role in Workday functional overview. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items to go over with you. First, we have enabled the live transcripts. So if that's an option or a feature that you would like, you can change that in your Zoom settings. Second is we are recording this session, and we will make it available on the Elevate website once we get it remediated for accessibility. And lastly, we have enabled the Q&A feature, so we encourage you to submit questions at any time throughout the presentation. We have a bunch of panelists working in the background to help get answers to your questions. And then we also have a time at the end of the session to do some live question and answering. So. Oops, next slide. So again, I hope you think you're in the right spot. This is your role in Workday functional overview. Thank you for coming. Your support team for today, I'm Gabe Bugenhagen. I'm the change management lead for the Elevate program. I'm a Maryland employee, have been on the College Park campus now for about 15 years or so. I'm joined today by Karen Dieso. She's our master of the Q&A, so she's one of the key panelists that is helping to get your questions answered. And last but not least, we have Chrissy Wheeler, who's our security lead, and she is our featured presenter for today. And a quick fun fact for Chrissy, she's joining us today, but in a couple hours, she's going to be jumping on a plane to go on vacation to Iceland. And once she lands, it will be the 37th country or territory that she will have visited, which I think is pretty impressive. So we're glad to have Chrissy here with us today. If you're new with us, you might be wondering what a functional overview is. So just a couple key points here. One is functional overviews are open to everyone. These are not your formal training. We encourage everyone to attend to become aware of different features or topics about Workday. We will be running these functional overviews through early 2023. The next one coming up in November is going to be about reporting, and the January one is going to be about time reporting. So those are two topics we have on deck. Again, these are optional. We encourage your participation, but we don't require it. And lastly, it's a preview of the system. our team is still, we're getting it ready for your training that will begin in the spring of 2023. One other call out, again, I want to reiterate that we have enabled the Q&A feature. So please, at any time through the presentation, please feel free to type your questions in so our panelists can get you guys some answers. Thank you. So for today's agenda, if you've attended other FOs with us before, we've always shown a feature in Workday, like we showed how to do purchasing and things. Today is a slight pivot for us because we want to make sure that you folks understand what role-based security is and what it means for you. We will go through a little bit about how we do system permissions today in the different systems that we use, like PHR and KFS. And then we're going to do a dive into what exactly role-based security is in Workday, what delegations are. We'll give a little look at how you can find out who in your organization has some of these security roles that we'll be talking about. And then the last thing is, if you want to learn more about the Elevate program or other events that are upcoming, I'll give a quick overview of how you can access some of those other resources. So with that, I'm happy to turn it over to Chrissy for the presentation.
Thanks, Gay, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I know that when most people hear the word security in terms of computers, you think about, viruses and malware and all that kind of stuff. And that's very technical. We're not going to talk about that today. What we're going to talk about is basically how do we set up the system so you can get your work done. We'll be going through what role-based security is and how it differs from the way we handle it today in PHR and KFS. So we'll do a security 101 here on the next slide. Basically, at its very minimum basic definition, a security role in Workday allows a person to see or do things within Workday, within the system. Now, the difference in Workday is that roles are generally assigned to positions rather than to people. So it allows employees to complete the work required by the position that they have with the university. Also, the roles that you have are going to determine what training you get in the spring before you can use the system. All workers are going to have some self-service access in Workday. We're going to show you that here in a minute. Next slide, Karen, please. So here's some of the stuff you can do as employee as self. So you can update your emergency contacts right in the system. You can update your demographic information. You can initiate a time off request. And you can register for some Workday learning. Mentioned in a previous FO, we talked about completing your portion of the PRD. So that's going to be a nice helpful feature that you can do in Workday without any other rules. So let's talk about how systems permissions work today in KFS and PHR. So right now, this is what happened when I showed up at DOTS. I used to be the assistant director of IT over there. I walked in the door and I needed permissions to KFS. So I filled out a form and my executive director signed it. It went to central IT. They did some coding into the system, and a few days later, I had access to KFS. Now, the problem with that is that the permissions were assigned ad hoc. We just kind of picked permissions that we thought an assistant director of IT would need. Any intervention was going to be manual. The system didn't really take care of it. Someone had to intervene and do that. If there was a vacancy, things can get missed, things can get overlooked. The managers didn't really have any guidelines on exactly what I should get. So what happens is that employees may have too many permissions, or they might not be appropriate. Also, it's hard to update the system when someone changes their role at the university. So moving from DOTS to dining will have different permissions. That's hard to do when it's very manual and people-based. This is important because one of the biggest assets we have at the university is our data. And so keeping that safe is really everybody's responsibility. So now we're going to talk about role-based security. This is the way Workday does things differently. So at its heart, I want to talk about how Workday is designed in general. Workday's whole design is based on making processes consistent, repeatable, no steps are missed. They want to make sure that everything's correct and efficient. The way it does that is by using business processes. So we have broken down the different business processes we need to do here at the university into different steps and tasks. The security roles that are in Workday allow people to do different tasks and different steps. We make sure that the right people are going to get the task when it's their turn to be able to act on it. And we'll talk about some more in a second. So what is a Workday business process? It's basically just a series of steps on something that needs to be done. It could be we need a new hire, or we're setting up someone to retire. We're doing a purchase order. We're changing a job. It's the way that the system facilitates and enforces a workflow with a series of tasks. People have different things they can do on those tasks. So someone would be able to initiate the hire, but then someone has to approve it. When you look here at this sample, it's someone requesting an FMLA. So the employee comes in and says, oh, I need FMLA, please help. There's someone who is in HR who needs to start up that process. Someone else in the department needs to review it, and then it'll go centrally. So basically, that's what a business process is. Series of steps, make sure every T is crossed, I is dotted, so this can happen. So the benefits of Workday business processes is that you don't need to know who's responsible for the next step. Workday is going to do that for you. So you don't have to think, oh, I have to send an email to, was it Jamie, or I can't remember, or so-and-so is on vacation. Don't worry about it. The system's going to take care of that for you. We're building that into the system. And the people who need to do the next step are going to get a clear notification. It's going to show up in Workday saying, hey, it's your turn in this FMLA to do the next step so we can move this forward. The process can route the task to multiple people, but only one person needs to take action on it. But there's a lot of visibility that's built into the system for that. And if something's incomplete, the task can be escalated so they can be finished. So if someone hasn't, for whatever reason, has missed doing something for 5 days, there can be a report that can be run and say, you know, that FMLA request is still hung up and it really needs to get done. So someone's notified so that can be finished. Now, the way we want to think about this too, we had one of the people on our team had a great analogy. Instead of thinking of security on a person, imagine that you show up for work and at your desk is a keychain. And on the keychain are keys that will unlock the different tasks that you're going to need to do your job. So if you were to move to a different job at the university, you would leave that keychain at that desk and go to your new desk and pick up a different keychain. And right away, you'd have all the keys you need to perform the task at that job. So what we're doing right now, we're working with the different departments to help build those keychains for people so that we can make sure that on day one, you'll be able to do the tasks you need in Workday without some of this manual intervention. So role-based security is a collection of permissions operating on the business process. That says what you can do. Some people can initiate, some people can approve, some kind of review or deny. Those are all different roles that you can give someone. Role-based security also determines what you can view. So think about role-based security as what can I do and what can I view? Workday clusters related business processes together for common jobs. So we have a role, for example, called HR analyst, which is like a PHR creator today. So that person in Workday can initiate a compensation change, start a hire, set up someone to terminate or about to retire. Those are all clustered together in a role, but we get to decide which roles get access to which group of items. I want to caution you that role-based security is not a direct match between a role and your job title. There are not roles that are specific to a coordinator that we have today. because there's not one role with a comprehensive set of all your job duties. We're going to stack them like keys on a key ring. We're also not trying to tell you how to divide up your work. All the departments are different, and that's not our job to tell you how you should run the department. This is just a means to get you to be able to do the work that you need to do. The roles also aren't unchangeable. If people or departments find out that they'll need different roles to do different things, there's going to be a process in place where we can add or remove keys from that keychain for you. So to state this again, currently security is on a person. In Workday, it's going to be on a position. The roles are assigned based on what the position does. And the number of roles that a person have will vary by department. A smaller department might have a person who wears a lot of hats and has a lot of different roles. Some are going to be able to be more compartmentalized. The roles on a position can change. There's going to be a process for that. But one of the benefits of this is that there's going to be tighter control of data, which protects the university. With that keychain analogy, you're going to put your keychain down when you leave a position and pick it up elsewhere. That protects the university data. But the departments are driving what positions get what roles. So this is a summary slide of how we do things now versus the way they're going to be done in Workday. That ad hoc permission and manual pieces, there's delays, there are things that can go wrong. If there's vacancies, things can sit. You need emails to make sure things are followed up. It's really clunky and messy. So role-based security is going to make things a lot more streamlined and consistent, and less manual intervention. They're going to have the permissions that they need to perform the task of their position. It's going to be easier for us to document and audit too, that we can find out who's been assigned what in the system. We can make checks on that on a regular basis. So you might say to yourself, okay, this is great. Security's on positions, but we're a really small department. And there's people who wear a lot of hats. And what happens when they're out, or what happens if there is a vacancy? How are things going to get done? Because I know that Martha does that, but she's out and this is on a position. This doesn't make any sense to me. That's okay. Workday has built into the system a way to handle this. And the way they handle it is with delegation. So a delegation is a way that you can reassign certain business processes to another user. So actions can be performed on your behalf. This is not going to be automatic. There's an approval process that's going to accompany this, and the ownership won't change. It'll be, Susie taking action on behalf of Martha. But the beauty of this delegation piece is that if you plan to be out for a couple weeks, so I'm going to Iceland, right? If I were approving POs in my area and I were generally speaking the only person approving POs, I can request that someone else do that in my absence. You can put a timer on it too, so that at 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, right before I come back, the delegation stops and I'm the primary person doing PO approval again. That's how it works in Workday. It's a lot cleaner. So the benefits of that also is that right now, and this is certainly not everywhere, and this is completely understandable, especially in a smaller department. But some of the roles that are assigned in KFS and PHR may have been assigned just in case. So, sometimes two people are out at once. If two people doing the PO and that's it, the POs can't stop when everybody's out of the office, right? So they have a role just in case. That person might only do those approvals twice, for 2 weeks out of the year. We don't have to worry about that with delegation, because that's going to handle the temporary absence. So when someone's out on leave, things will still get done. There's fewer bottlenecks. You can delegate either the entire contents of the My Task portion of Workday, it's like your Workday inbox, or certain business processes also. You can put a time bound on it. It's going to be a really nice feature. We'll have more information on that as we get closer to going live. So you also may be asking, who has the different security roles in my organization? The beauty of using roles also is that when you see the different roles, you know generally what those roles can do, you can tell right away in the system who has the ability to do something. We're going to see this here in a second. I'm going to show you a picture here of the tenant. So right now we've logged in as Martha Manager. And so if we go to view profile and select that, see that little, that's how you get to view profile, select that. Now on the left-hand side, there's an area that says job. So we're going to select that. And there are support roles over at that bar, almost at the very end of that bar is support roles. Now watch as this comes up. These are different people that are supporting Martha Manager in her department. There is a cost center manager here named Bettina Budget. Cost center managers do things like they can view the budget. They can also help track assets. They can see how the asset tracking is working. So say you just got a new laptop and you want to make sure that it's in the system, it's being tracked as an asset. Bettina would be able to tell you if it's in the system, even if you yourself don't have that visibility. You can ask Bettina to see that, and because she is the cost center manager, she has that ability. So thank you for listening to that. I'm going to turn this back over to Gay, who can let you know how you can get more information about Workday security and about the Elevate program in general.
Awesome. Thanks, Chrissy. So we have an event coming up next week. The functional overviews, as I mentioned earlier, they tend to focus on features or topics within Workday, but we don't really spend time in the FOs talking about the overall Elevate program. So if you're curious to learn more about the program, what some of our milestones have been, what progress we've been making towards those milestones, I encourage you to attend one of 2 sessions of the town hall that's being hosted next week on Wednesday and Thursday. Jack Blanchard, the Associate Provost for ERP, will be hosting or emceeing the event. We also have introductory remarks by Provost Rice. And so we encourage you to sit in and learn more about what's happening right now with Elevate as we're preparing for our go live in July of 2023. Other resources that we have available to you are the elevate.umd.edu website. And if you haven't been to our website yet, please jump in there. There's several key points that I would point out that you can explore. The first one is the Elevate program goals. If you're wondering why are we even doing this, we have a list of the program goals that were set at the beginning of the program. We also provide a history. How did we get here? This process started way back. I want to say definitely, I joined in 2021, but the program started prior to that. And then you can see what some of the next steps are that we have between now and go live. The third thing there is frequently asked questions. And we maintain that with questions that we get through functional overviews like today. We also have different communications that we do across the different campuses. And as we get great questions from you guys, we add them to the FAQ portion of the website. The fourth item here is the Elevator newsletter. It's a monthly subscription-based communication that we do. I highly encourage everyone to subscribe to the newsletter to stay current on different things that are happening. As far as what's happening with the program, we like to feature keywords or topics in that as well. So please subscribe if you haven't already to the monthly newsletter. The second to last item here is the the glossary. And what we're doing with the glossary is, when available, we are also trying to give some crosswalk of terms. Chrissy used a lot of terms today, and we tend to have all the Workday words, and we're trying to curate that to what is the similar term in current state, so that you guys can start learning the Workday language, but also understand what you would say today. Again, we update that. We're constantly getting input from our functional teams about new words that we add to that. And last but not least on this would be our news and events section. That's where you can register for upcoming items. The newsletters are posted there. So if you haven't subscribed, or if you subscribe today and you want to see any of the back issues, all that information is available in the news and events. Another item that we do, as I mentioned earlier, we are recording this session today, and all of our prior functional overviews are available on the website also, and we have a YouTube channel. So you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see these webinars or any of the recorded demonstrations that we've done. We've heard that folks have been enjoying those, and they've been viewing them pretty frequently, so we appreciate that. And with that, I will turn it over to Karen.
Hi, everyone. I just have a quick poll for you all that I'm going to launch and run. We like to hear from you guys to make sure that these are useful and that everyone is enjoying the content. So if you could take a minute to fill out the poll, that would be great. I'll let it run for, usually I let it run about a minute. Just so everyone has the chance to answer these 3 questions. And then after that, I will dive into a Q&A session with Chrissy. Throughout the session, you all have been submitting questions on the back end, which has been great. I've gone ahead and pulled a few for Chrissy to answer. And then our panelists are also answering as I'm answering as well, or as I'm posing these to Chrissy as well. So maybe I'll pull in some from there. Let's see, we've been doing the poll for about 45 seconds, and it looks like most of you have answered it. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Thank you so much for your feedback. We do look at this data and it does inform our sessions. So thank you. So Q&A. All right, Chrissy, are you ready to answer some questions about security?
I am.
Cool. All right, the first question I have for you is, can I have more than one security role?
Absolutely. Remember the keyring analogy? Everyone's going to have at least one ability in Workday to do things as employee as self, right? Those things just come on day one. When we go live, you're going to have the ability to put in a time off request. You're going to have the ability to change your demographic information. So that already comes with just being in Workday. Some people are going to have no other roles than that. Some are going to have many roles, because we could have a small division or department where people are doing a lot of different things. They may have multiple roles. We're using our pit crews, which are the folks that are fanning out to the different departments and divisions, to help us determine what role someone gets. Remember that your role is not a one-to-one with your job. So if you have the ability to, initiate a compensation change, but also you do some work on the financial side, because you're a very small group, you may have different roles that even cross different areas.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Chrissy. All right. Let's see what else I have on the docket. Another question someone had is, will I automatically get the same permissions that I have in KFS or PHR today?
That is a great question.
Yeah.
That is a really good question. So back when we were looking at this, there's a couple things to think about here. First of all, there's that ad hoc approval process that we had talked about before. And especially when people were changing jobs, because there's no clear delineation from going from one position to another, we know that there are some permissions, not many, not all, but some areas where someone may have too many permissions right now in the current system. We are using this opportunity to change that now, to really make things a little tighter. That being said, there isn't a one-to-one between PHR and KFS and Workday security anyway. I mean, the whole design is different. So what we did was to start the discussion with the different areas about security in Workday, we did use PHR and KFS as the foundation. We presumed that generally speaking, people are going to be needing to do the same things in Workday that they're doing right now. So we use that as a starting point. One of the things that Gay said too, though, is we're using this opportunity to think about different ways that we can do things in the different departments. Like there might be somewhere that somebody says, you know what, we really would like this person to have some kind of professional development where they are more of an academic specialist. And so we can split those things out. The roles are different in Workday between academics and supervisory on certain tasks. So we're really using this opportunity to think about business differently. And so that's why we didn't bring things over one-to-one. First of all, it really wouldn't be accurate. And also this is giving us all a chance to look at this with fresh eyes and making sure that we can set things up in a way that is more easily maintainable without having to rely so much on humans remembering things.
Awesome. I just wanted to call out, we got a couple questions in the Q&A about delegations, which is great. One person asked, and our panel answered this in the background, so I'm just highlighting this for everyone's knowledge, because I know some people just listen to these and don't want to go through all the answers to the questions. Regarding delegation, someone was asking, how could you tell which report in Workday shows how the task is directed? So Jason was kind enough to give us some insight that if a task is approved by a delegate, the language on the approval reads Jason on behalf of Chrissy, which I think is a nice touch to be able to see kind of who took action on that item if it was delegated. And then of course, reports and native tasks in Workday that list where a process is waiting would have a list of those that can take action. Yeah, and again, more to come on delegation as we get closer to go live. Okay, back into the questions that I pulled from earlier. Someone asked, I am currently a payroll coordinator for my department. Will I have payroll coordinator security role? I think they're asking.
Thank you for that question.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the roles we did when we named the roles, some of them are using guidelines from Workday, but the roles really aren't your job title because it's more of things that you can do. So the role that you have is based on a cluster of things that people in a position generally do. So right now we have a PHR creator, right? They can initiate a job hire. They can start something up at HR, right? So there's a cluster of things that someone, generally speaking, in a department can do if they are starting processes up in HR. We call that role HR analyst. We're not changing people's job titles. So we're not going to have a flurry of HR analysts that used to be HR coordinators. That's not what it is. I'll say this too, that there's not a one-to-one correlation between the roles and your job title, but it's also vice versa. So if you're an HR coordinator and there's one HR coordinator in your department also, if you have a very large department, and they're doing the initiation pieces, you might be doing the approval pieces. I mean, there's no saying that all HR coordinators need to have this, and this. It's at the department's discretion and the division's discretion to say this position is going to be able to do initiation pieces, and this position is going to be able to do approval pieces, and this or denial pieces, and this position is going to be able to view and run reports. So they're the ones thinking these things through as to how the work's going to be assigned in the area. We are not. It's not an automatic one-to-one, and it's certainly not a one-to-one with your job title.
Awesome. Thanks, Chrissy. Another question we got was, can I keep the same access when I change jobs and start in a new college or I assume department or wherever? So
this again goes back to the key ring analogy. You're going to leave your keychain at your old desk and pick up a new keychain. Depending on where you go, you may have similar roles, or you may have similar roles to do to do the same tasks, but on a different area. So you may have, I'll bring back dots, I'll say my alma mater, if that makes sense, here at UMG. If I have the ability to approve POs at dots, I may still have the ability to approve POs, but they're now for dining. So I will not have the ability to approve POs for dots any longer because I'll leave that with dots. Dots will be able to take that over in my absence with handling the vacancies with delegation or having inheritance roll up, and I'll be able to do my new job over in dining.
Awesome. Another person asked, what if I don't have the access I need when Workday goes live?
Oh, thank you for that. That is, we know that's going to happen. We are trying our best now to get the roles right. We're doing several passes through with the different departments, trying to make things as good as we can for the first day of go live. It benefits us all that you can do your work on day one. We know that there's going to be changes needed, and there's going to be a procedure in place to get those changes to happen. We don't have details on that procedure yet, but you will be informed of the procedure. It'll be easy to find and do to set that process up. Approvals will be necessary, but you're going to be, when you're doing your training in the spring, you'll be told on how that approval process can be started by you or someone in your department.
Great. We got another question in the Q&A that Brendan was that someone asked. Someone asked about what the report name. Wait, no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Someone was asking how they can make sure they're staying up to date on all Workday things, regardless of their role. I think a great way to stay up to date with Workday in general is because your training is going to be relevant to your role in Workday, and that's the training that we need everyone to take so everyone can do their jobs. But for people who are really want to be like Workday super users, I would encourage everyone to sign up for the newsletter, attend all the functional overviews, and we're going to roll out a lot of things regarding Workday so people can get as much information as they can. It's good to know that people want to know everything about Workday. I think that the functional overviews have a lot of really interesting demonstrations on how a lot of those processes work, so that if you ever end up in a new position, you are not going in blind because maybe you watched the onboarding functional overview at a different point. We know there's a lot changing at once. So we appreciate people who want to have their hands in everything, but also just want to make sure that everyone can do their job today when we go live on July 1st. And then another question we got was for Chrissy, what if our unit has a vacancy? If security is on a position, how will that work get done?
That's a very good question. Workday is built on getting tasks done. I mean, we had talked about that earlier in the presentation, that it's built on repeatable efficiencies and making sure tasks get routed to the right person. The way that vacancies work is that I've said in some of the pit meetings that Gay can back up, Workday abhors a vacuum, right? Workday doesn't like to have tasks stall and not get done. It's built to get things done. So there is a way in Workday where vacancies can cause the task can be routed to different people in the event of a vacancy. And there's also visibility of tasks that still need to be done. So there absolutely is a way to work around that. Things aren't going to sit. We can also use temporary delegation until the position is filled. There's a number of different ways that we can handle that. So we'll be able to work with you as what's going to be best for your area.
We got another question from someone asking, about how we're pulling the position permissions from. So how are we deciding who has what security roles in Workday? I just wanted to kind of take that quickly because our team, the change team, has been hard at work with this with pit crews. We have project implementation team pit crews who are in charge of getting your specific unit ready for Workday. And actually Gay and Chrissy have been hard at work meeting with pit crews to help map out these roles and make sure that everyone has the right permissions in your department, in your unit, for go live. So I think that's important to know that, there is local representation there. We also got another question about how, and I understand where this comes from, how is the town hall different from functional overviews? Because obviously we have the functional overviews every month, and the town hall is only once a semester. And the functional overviews, we go over demonstrations and specific like nitty gritty pieces of Workday. So during the functional overviews, we have opportunities to dive a little bit deeper into things like security and into things like how talent and performance will work. Or how you'll onboard an employee, not training, but just getting people familiar with how Workday will look, how it will feel, and how it will work. The town hall is a presentation by Jack Blanchard, as Gay mentioned before, that gives you an opportunity to get insight on the progress of the actual implementation project and to get an understanding of how we've been working with all of our different campuses, all of our different institutions, departments. University of Maryland Eastern Shore is involved as well, as all of our 4 entities, to make sure that that Workday will be wonderful on July 1st, 2023 when we go live. So I would encourage you to join that if you want to get more of an insight into how the implementation is going beyond, knowing how security works. And then with that, it's about 11:39. I think our team has answered most questions. There are some other questions that people asked that were just super technical. I don't know if they're good for like a general audience talking about data warehouses and stuff. It's a lot. But we have gotten back to folks on any other questions that we didn't address during this session. And then if there are any questions that we were not able to get to, there might just be 1 or 2, we will follow up with those people individually. And we really appreciate everyone coming today and learning about Workday role-based security with us. And with that, I will give you back about 5 minutes of your time. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.